Hey guys, dehparticles here, and from a previous video, you may recall this statement. Social media has become a defining feature of the internet, allowing people from around the world to communicate in a short span of time. And after uploading the video, it got me thinking about how prominent social media has become in my own life. Without a doubt, I use social media every day. I frequently use apps like Discord to talk to my friends or YouTube for entertainment purposes, and my tendency to check them has sharply increased following last year. But with each social media platform, there always tends to be different qualities that define what they are and how people use them. And the ones that I mentioned are no exception. Yet one platform clearly defined in this idea that stands out is Snapchat, and for users of the app, it's easy to see why. With the simple premise yet addictive features, Snapchat has become one of the top social media apps in recent times, and many people I know in real life even use the app over the standard messenger. But every social media is not without its significant problems, and Snapchat is no different. But strangely enough, Snapchat is the one app I continuously hear criticism of in several different regards. Whether it's the UI changes, concerns over privacy, or just not using the app, Snapchat has seen its fair share of criticism. But is this cause for concern? If the app has seen so much controversy over a vast time frame, how many times will it be able to bounce back before people stop using it? And even though most social media sites eventually fall out of favor, would these circumstances mean that Snapchat will fall victim sooner? I got curious about this topic a while back, but it wasn't until recently that my curiosity led me to researching. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at the history of Snapchat and seeing if it's on the path to certain demise. Before we can understand everything about Snapchat, we first need to understand the origins of the app and how it came to be. Snapchat was first conceived in April 2011 by Stanford University alumni Evan Spiegel, Bobby Murphy, and Reggie Brown, and would later launch as an iOS-only app initially known as Peekaboo, likely referring to the ghost mascot. In the beginning, the app was relatively simple. You could send photos to friends for however long you wanted them viewable, and could add captions and filters/drawings. This is the early period that they would use to develop the app's features and its user base, but eventually, Spiegel and Murphy would have a falling out with Reggie and he was forced to leave the company in early 2012. Throughout the year, Snapchat would only see more meteoric rises in its growth as more began to download the app and more features were implemented. By October 29th, Snapchat would report that its users were sharing 20 million images a day, coinciding with the launch of the Android version. This would only increase to 3 times the amount by February 8, 2013, and then 1.5 times that number only 2 months later. Things would mostly continue with the same pattern of more images per day and more features being added, most notably the addition of My Story proving to be one of their most popular. But security-wise, the app wasn't doing so hot. In December of 2013, a security flaw in the app's Find Friends feature leaked 4.6 million usernames and phone numbers, and throughout the early months of 2014, it was found that hackers were freezing people's phones by means of spam and sending pictures of smoothies, but this wouldn't stop the company from their means of growth as they would try their hand at specialized glassware and monetization efforts, with a new Discover feature providing ways of showing their means of monetization and extra content through the app. Throughout the next 2 years, this continued to be a consistent pattern of more updates, more growth, and more global outreach. But around 2017 is where things get interesting. Now the rebranded Snap Inc., the app would receive a new UI and the company would sign deals with multiple prominent television networks, further strengthening their stocks and becoming a high target for investors. Although highly recognizable for advertising their well-known dog filter, their new dancing hot dog filter would take the internet by storm as memes would become more high-profile, and this would repeat with the new Maps feature as well. In spite of these strides, however, Snapchat would soon see some of its highest controversies today, as in February 2018, a UI update would see huge amounts of backlash as the app was significantly harder to use, and Snapchat would soon lose many of its users due to this and other circumstances. But more on this later. After this, the story up to now basically remains the same, and I can generalize that during the events of 2020, more people used the app as many relied on social media for communication during the rough time. But at this point, we've covered the general timeline and established common patterns. So now that it's been made clear the history of the app, let's take a look at some of the app's positives. I don't think it'd be fair to answer the question while looking at it from a solely negative standpoint. So in this section, I want to go over some of the positives of Snapchat and see what the app does right. First is the encouragement of interaction. Snapchat centers itself on being a social media app where messages are deleted after a certain time, which allows users to engage in more personal interactions with people they have added. This is in contrast to other text-based platforms where messages automatically save. So unless you or the other party decides to save the messages in Snap, you won't have anything to look back on. And with these messages comes a plethora of features specific to Snapchat. Other than messages, things that Snapchat does in its own way include live video chatting, usable face and AR filters, the Discover page, and customizable avatars known as Bitmojis. With all of this at bay, it's easy to attract people to Snapchat with its handful of things to do, and it's easy to get into it, because next is that it's usually easy to set up and use. Creating a Snapchat account is relatively painless once you get down to it. All you need is an email address or phone number, and once that's done, you can jump straight into Snapchat as a whole. Finding friends and sending snaps should be a breeze from that point, and you can learn about new features and how to use the social aspect of the app as you go on. But there's a lot more to Snapchat besides messaging friends. Then are some advantages to the media-based side of the app. The Discover page, a place that I've mentioned a few times up to now, has been criticized heavily in the past, and this is something we'll get to later on. But depending on how you use it, it can be a place worth checking out every once in a while. At least in my experience, I use the Discover page to check on recent news and other happenings, or view another person's story, so I don't use it that often. I don't imagine most users will care about the Discover page, but it's at least there for those who are curious. Lastly is the available options regarding privacy. Just like the Discover page, privacy is another issue that Snapchat has been criticized for, which, again, will be detailed later. But one thing that Snapchat can be commended for is how it allows its users to maintain privacy to the extent that they want. In the menus of the app, you can find a section on privacy that allows you to change who views your stories and who can contact you, with additional settings for Snap Maps and more advanced measures. In addition, once you set your Snap username, you can't change it at all. Although Snapchat has never specified why this is the case, it's more likely than not due to privacy reasons, which is all the more better. So although it was quicker than intended, we've now taken a look at Snapchat's positives and what it does pretty well. But even its positives can't escape from all the negatives on the side, so if people are complaining about the app, what exactly went wrong? Well, it seems that it was quite a bit. Social media isn't always perfect. Although we have the strength to communicate and meet many people, this also comes with its downsides, and Snapchat is one of the more well-known carriers of these issues. In this segment, I hope to address most of the criticism that people have had with Snapchat in the past, and see where they have their gripes with the app. First is the concern of inarticulate content. Snapchat has evolved since the days of being solely a messaging app, and the easiest way to see this is through the Discover page. But routinely, the content delivered through the Discover page always tends to be incoherent, and provide things that not many people would find useful. In a sense, this is the exact same issue with life hacks. Creators and companies using clickbait to generate more views on their stories when the content itself doesn't make up for it. Of course, this is not as big of an issue as life hacks since there are generally some places on the Discover page that offer either unique tips or news on current events. But this comes with its own issue. If you were to look for one specific thing on Discover, you might have to scroll for a very long time. And it's honestly surprising that Snapchat was able to put this much content throughout the section, even with barely known influencers. I know most people will really pay attention to the Discover page, but for those who do, it's good to be wary about the quality of the content there. Next is the concern of privacy. Of all the concerns that Snapchat has raised in the past, privacy has to rank at the very top as the app's safeguards were multiple times tested and put its users in jeopardy, especially those who were or are under the age of 16. There's obviously the hacking incidents that were mentioned earlier, a severe downplay in Snapchat's growth as private information about its users was thrown out into the open, and even Snapchat's own updates couldn't easily fix these issues right away. This doesn't stop here though. Even the app's own features have garnered attention for their potential negative effects on privacy. The promise of disappearing images, for example, wasn't as cut out as the founders made it out to be, as it was found that third-party apps would store the images that could be retrieved with the right software, whether they were sent to people or put on stories, and this actually got the company in a settlement with the FTC. This also stretches to messages, which Snapchat has a weird way of dealing with, as they are generally saved for days at a time until it automatically gets deleted, in which case Snapchat will indicate that it was opened by the user it was sent to, when in reality this isn't the case. And since Snapchat doesn't guarantee end-to-end encryption, it's possible that these messages and photos could be intercepted by third parties at any moment. Lastly, there are obviously concerns over the Snap Maps feature, as people who opt into sharing their location can easily be tracked down by individuals they've added, which leads to other problems such as stalking and harassment, and jeopardizes a person's safety and mental health. Speaking of, then is the concern of mental health. Obviously, being wrapped in social media is not good for any person, and Snapchat exemplifies this as well. However, Snapchat is ranked high among apps that consistently worsen mental health in kids and teenagers, as evidenced from a survey by the UK's Royal Society for Public Health. In the survey, it was hypothesized that Snapchat heavily relied on the image of a person, and could thus cloud its users with self-esteem problems leading into mental health issues, which are only personified further through a potential social media, and in due course, a Snapchat addiction. When speaking about a Snapchat addiction, it generally refers to different things. It can refer to either how many people view your stories or how big your Snap score gets, but I'd wager that most people are apprehensive of Snap streaks. Snap streaks are a system where you and your friends send snaps to each other back and forth every day, keeping it up long enough to obtain a streak. It starts off as something harmless and becomes a good way to engage in the app, but keeping up a streak long enough to surpass double digits can turn into a measure of whether or not you or your friends are willing to sustain it for long enough. And by chance, if you become invested and lose one that was going on for a very long time, the aftermath could prove concerning. Snapchat has tried to help out their users though. In 2020, they announced a new in-app Here For You tool that offered resources for users struggling with issues, and their website has certain advice for helping others as well. But as long as its well-known features remain usable, many of the target demographic will likely continue to struggle with the application, provided they actually participate. But this is only the first base. Last is the concern of exploitation. Many people are now more susceptible to cyberbullying than ever before, as social media opens to people a place to spread rumors, call names, and other harmful actions. Cyberbullying isn't necessarily a Snapchat-only problem, but serves as an outlet for it, as there are undeniably methods where people could hurt others. Other than that, when talking solely about Snapchat, it has become known for problems regarding sexual content in recent times. Throughout the 2020 quarantine, it was reported that in France, distribution of underage women emerged on Snapchat, and child exploitation has recently seen more reports on the app, which is obviously not a good sign. There is another situation which I will go over later, but in general, Snapchat's structure is unfortunately a key which has been used to take advantage of people in the past, and this is where the app is at its darkest and needs to be addressed. So yeah, Snapchat hasn't been able to avoid its larger criticisms, even after the app has run for this long. While these are the commonly talked about issues that people have with Snap, what are the situations where they crossed the line and got a negative rep as a company? Let's find out. Unfortunately for Snapchat, the company and app have been plagued with controversy ever since its inception. So now I want to take the time to try and cover most, if not all, of the major situations that Snapchat has presented itself in, and see where they went too far. We'll start from the oldest all the way to the upload date of this video, and lightly mention other incidents that have already been covered. Remember when I said that Spiegel and Murphy would have a falling out with Brown? Well, in February 2013, Brown decided to sue the company, alleging that they were using his intellectual property, as he claimed to have come up with the idea of the disappearing images and the ghost logo back when the app was still called Peekaboo, but would later be unfairly ousted from the company. This lawsuit would only be corroborated even further, as leaked documents show that Brown was heavily involved with the app's early development, and bolstered the case that he was eligible for a 1/3 share in the company. Although the lawsuit was settled in September 2014, details wouldn't emerge until more than 2 years later, when it was revealed that after years of work, Brown received a payout of $158 million, but the details of the case are too lengthy to approach in this sole video, so I will be leaving a link in the description if you want more details because there's actually a lot of interesting evidence. Skipping over the December hacking incident, which is a controversy but has already been covered, in May 2014, Spiegel would join the fray of controversy as embarrassing emails from before Snapchat's founding would be leaked, showcasing disturbing content that described women in an inappropriate manner, of which he would apologize for, yet it didn't prevent them from having bad bearings on himself and Snapchat altogether. Moving forward to September 2015, Snapchat would be the subject of a major lawsuit as a car crash occurred in Hampton, Georgia, while an 18-year-old was using the in-app lens feature to record the speed at which they were driving their car. Both drivers involved in the accident were injured, and the other driver spent 5 weeks in intensive care for treatment of severe traumatic brain injury. This driver would sue Snapchat in April 2016, alleging that the company knew of the feature's wrong use but did nothing to prevent or discourage such behavior. In the end, the suit worked for the driver, as the lens feature would soon be removed from the app, but not even a year later, Snapchat would have another damning lawsuit. In January 2017, a former employee named Anthony Pompliano accused Snap Inc. of exaggerating their growth metrics in order to deceive investors in the hopes of going public, and that as an employee, his concerns were dismissed by Spiegel as he would later be fired. Snapchat would deny these allegations and claim that Pompliano was simply an aggrieved employee who was, quote, fired for poor performance, and these claims were dismissed by the judge handling the case. But Snap didn't exit without stains to its own brand, as in the aftermath of the case, Snap Inc. would be heavily criticized for a lack of transparency in regards to the content of the lawsuit, resulting in lower stock prices and investigations at a federal level. And it didn't stop there. In the same lawsuit, Pompliano claimed that Spiegel remarked that Snapchat was, quote, only for rich people, and that he had no interest in expanding in other countries, among the ones mentioned, India and Spain. At the sound of this, a Twitter trend sparked under the hashtag uninstall Snapchat, where in response, many people from around the world deleted Snapchat and left negative reviews on the Play Store and App Store pages for the app, and once again, their stock prices plunged. But after this is where things get interesting. The following controversies occurred in what I call the Snapchat controversy heyday, a period in early 2018 where the app had its most difficult period as a result of several factors, starting with the acclaimed UI update. In early 2018, Snapchat rolled out an update across the app for its users that drastically changed the layout of the app as friends' messages and stories were placed in a separate section from media-based content. This was done when Snapchat was under pressure to increase its user base, so the idea was that by separating friends from brands, more people would be enticed to have interactions on the app. On the contrary, many people found the update difficult to navigate through as it more emphasized discovering other app features and usage as opposed to interactions, and this led to outrage. So much so that a change.org petition to reverse the update received 1.2 million signatures, and celebrities even called out the company on the update after it came out. One of these celebrities was Kylie Jenner, an American media personality and model who will be the focus of the next controversy. In February of that year, she sent out a tweet on Twitter asking if anyone bothered to open Snapchat anymore, and although not a direct response to the UI update, she had previously complained about it days prior. But with Jenner's influence as a socialite and influencer, the two tweets seemed to work in tandem and have an immediate effect on the application. Pretty soon, Snapchat would lose an estimated 6% or $1.3 to $1.6 billion in market value, making headlines as to how she could have seemingly done this much damage to the app, and it's still crazy to think about. Even though she didn't directly imply getting rid of the app, and she would later tweet again reaffirming her relationship and professing her love for it, by this point the damage was already done. Snapchat couldn't possibly afford another mix-up after all that happened, but this is exactly what came to them. A month later, an advertisement circulated on Snapchat for a game called Would You Rather, which asked users if they would rather slap Rihanna or punch Chris Brown, referring to the 2009 incident in which Chris Brown violently assaulted Rihanna. She would condemn the company in an Instagram story citing insensitivity to domestic abuse victims and calling out users to delete the app. As a result, Snapchat stocks would again drop, this time by 5%. And it would surely take some time for Snap Inc. to recover with all the negative publicity and plunging stocks. Fast forward to 2021, and it seems Snapchat picked itself back up from where it left off. At this point, there are two more situations which are worth noting. In 2020, a woman in the US state of North Carolina sued Snapchat, alleging that the app's features were specifically designed to serve as a secretive method of exchanging illicit material, which allowed her alleged to delete evidence of the wrongdoing. Ending the current year 2021, while not necessarily damaging to the company, Snapchat would become the center of a U.S. Supreme Court case, as it was ruled that U.S. schools couldn't discipline students for what was said on social media and outside the school. All in all, these situations have pushed Snapchat far enough to put a stain on its history and impact its user base negatively. And likely, this is where most people would have no doubt about their opinion on the platform. And at this point, nearly 10 years after the app first launched, it seems as if it's nearing the stage in its life where signs are wary. But is this really so? Well, the answer is only lightly clear. At the beginning of this video, I asked the question of whether or not Snapchat is on the path to certain demise, and after seeing everything I could, I'd say it's very well possible, but at the same time, there are some contradictory factors. Many people's issues with the app have been brought up time and time again, along with the effects of the controversies that sent the company into a frenzy, that at this point it's hard to ignore. From privacy to mental health to a crazy update reaction and just being bad, it's evident that many people have become tired of Snapchat. Along with this, technology is rapidly changing, and Snapchat is becoming less convenient than when it was at its prime in the 2010s. But at the same time, this seems further from the truth. Currently, many people, including myself, still use Snapchat and its features in daily social media use, and the company is still doing well for itself as they have plans for the future of the app. Along with more people using what appears to be Snapchat in memes and other media, the platform has found its place within the target demographic and will likely stay around for a long while. So I guess in the end, to say that Snapchat is on the path to certain demise depends on the person, but I think that with everything that's happened, it's not out of the question. Until then, there's only one other thing we need to know. Will it squish or crack? I like it. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought this was an interesting topic to go over, and I want to know from you guys. Do you think Snapchat is on the path to certain demise? Leave a comment down below and let me know. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, consider giving a like and subscribing. It really helps the channel out. If you want to get notified about new uploads, consider hitting the notification bell or checking out my Twitter. Either one works out. And if you want to see my previous video, there will be links on screen and in the description. But yeah guys, that's about it from me. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.